see my screen, and if you can hear me again.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So we didn't really start anything yet. I was just confirming to everyone that our tomorrow's class is on campus as usual. There's no change on that. Okay. All right. So now today we're going to start our next topic, and that is permutations and combinations. And this is a topic that's considered the most difficult one in statistics and overall A levels. Maybe it's one of the more difficult topics, right? Not in terms of concepts. It's the concepts, they are, as in, they're okay. They're not very difficult to understand, but in some questions you can just get stuck, right? So even if you know everything, उस time के ऊपर उसको properly interpret करना, sometimes, you know, if it's a 3-part question, एक part इसमें ऐसा होता है जो आपको उसी point पे सोच के उसकी logic जो है वो build करनी पड़ती है. So in that respect, it's sort of, you know, a hit and miss कि अच्छा उस point पे आपको figure out कर सकें तो you'll do it. Otherwise जो है एक part कभी-कभी इस तरह का होता है that's quite tricky. जो point पे आपको उसी point पे सोचना पड़ता है, ठीक है? But of course there are a lot of standard questions that come as well. So we need to make sure कि हम उसमें at least कोई mistake ना करें. But then we have to focus a lot on practice. इसमें practice बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी होती है. Because when you do a lot of practice, you get yourself used to the different types of questions that may come, और हर एक situation को हर एक different situation होगी, उसको किस तरह से आपने interpret करना है. So you will build that thinking process, and then hopefully you'll get better at solving the more difficult problems as well. So we're going to have to spend a bit more time on this, क्योंकि इसके questions थोड़े से tricky होंगे. So let's begin. How many of you have taken admaths again? So quite a few of you. So you have some idea about this, but don't consider that you know all permutation combinations, because this is going to be a significant step up over what you did in admaths. ठीक है, उसमें आपकी काफी चीजें इसमें additional होंगी. Permutations and combinations. Okay. अच्छा, इसमें जो पहली चीज हमें करनी है, that is arrangements. It's actually a part of permutations, लेकिन this is the major part of this topic actually. ज़्यादातर आपके जो problems होती हैं, they involve around arrangements, arranging different objects. उसमें कुछ ना कुछ conditions होती हैं, and you have to figure out कि अच्छा कितने number of ways में आप कोई चीज कर सकते हो. Now let's take an example. Let's try to understand it using an example. So let's say you go to a restaurant and you've got a three-course meal. You want to have a 3-course meal here. You've got 3 different options. You've got multiple options for the starter, for the main course, and for dessert. You've got multiple options for each one of them. Okay. Now, for instance, if somebody goes, they can have a soup. They can have soup with steak and cheesecake. That's one option that they can have. Okay. This is one possible 3-course meal that they could have. Now, how many such different 3-course meal options are there? How do you figure that out? Total possible different meal combinations, कितने हो सकते हैं? How do you think about that? So, for example, one possibility is you had soup, you had steak, and you had cheesecake. This is one possible 3-course meal. Take another possibility, for example, could have been you've got melon, you've got fish, and you've got apple pie. I don't know how that combination looks like, but that's what you have. Okay, so you've got these 3 things. Yeah, okay. एक और possible combination हो गया. How many different possible combinations do you have like this? $45. And how do you figure that out? You've got 3 options here. 3 options down here. You've got 5 options here, and you've got 3 options here, right? So for example, if you start with melon here, melon can be combined with chicken, and then one of these 3, right? 3 options आपके पास यहाँ से आ जाएंगे. And then you can have melon with a steak, and then 3 more here. तो इस तरह से बहुत सारी आपकी ऑप्शंस बन रही होंगी. ओवरऑल अगर आप सारे कॉम्बिनेशंस को लिस्ट डाउन करोगे, you will actually have 3 into 5 into 3 possible 3-course meals. That's going to be 45. Let's actually break it down a bit. इसको हम actually पहले एक 2-course meal में convert कर देंगे. So let's say we have a 2-course meal. That might be easier to understand. Let's say you are not having a starter, just having the main course and a dessert. That's only that. These are the only 2 things that you're having. You're not having anything started. Okay. How many options do you have with chicken? Chicken के साथ अब कितनी dessert की options है? You've got 3 options there. Steak के साथ कितनी options है? 3. And then similarly with lamb cutlets, you've got 3 options. Vegetable curry के साथ you've got 3 options. Fish के साथ you've got 3 options. सब के साथ you've got 3 options. That's 3 being added how many times? 5 times. So you've got 5 here and 3 here. It becomes 5 times 3. You've got 15 options here. If you had 2-course meal, right? This 2-course meal, you've got 15 options. 5 times 3. इसी को हम extrapolate कर लें. If we now had a 3-course meal like this, then that would be 3 into 5 into 3, and that's 45. You've got, with every one of these 15 choices, you will have these 3 options. एक दफा आप इन 15 के साथ melon ले सकते हो. In 15 के साथ you can have soup. उसी तरह in 15 के साथ you can have smoked salmon. Okay, so you've got 45 total options. So आप क्या करते हो? You just multiply all of them together. You say this is going to be 3 into 5 into 3, and that's 45 total meal options that you have here. Is that clear to everyone? Any problems with this? इस चीज को हम कहते हैं basic counting principle. So basically, if there are m ways of doing one thing, so if there's a certain number of doing one particular thing, certain number of ways doing one particular thing, and a certain number of ways of doing another thing, उन दोनों को इकट्ठे करने के कितने ways होंगे? You just multiply them together. उन दोनों को multiply करना है. So you've got here 3 ways of choosing the starter, 5 ways of choosing the main course. इनको इकट्ठे choose करने के क्या होंगे? 3 into 5. Okay. So you've got m ways of doing one thing, n ways of doing another thing. You've got m into n ways of doing both of them together. This is called basic counting principle. तो आपको अगर total number of ways इस तरह से find करने हो, आप individual ways find करते हो, उनको multiply कर देते हो. That's what we need to sort of remember. अपने multiplication करनी होती है इस तरह से. अगर आप कुछ चीजों को combine करके उनके total number of ways निकालना चाह रहे हो. Is that okay? This is called the basic counting principle. Now, this is what is going to be used throughout this topic. आप किसी भी चीज के number of ways of doing निकालने होंगे, you will look at them individually, step by step, and then you'll multiply them together, because that's going to give us the total number of ways done. ठीक है? Okay. Now, let's go into it now. So before that, there's a notation that you need to know of. Factorial, we have seen this before, right? And P3 binomial as well. Factorial notation का आपको पता होना चाहिए. 4 factorial, for instance, what does this mean? तो क्या मतलब होता है? 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, right? So that's 24. 6 factorial would be 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So आपने उस number से start करके 1 तक सारे integers multiply कर देने हैं, and you get some results. So this is 720 and so on. So in general, n factorial क्या होता है? It's n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 and so on. You keep multiplying until you've got 3, 2, and then finally 1. right? So कोई भी number होगा वो multiply करते जाएंगे उस छोटे number से and we get to the final result. On your calculator, you've got a button for this. You'll have to use that. Binomial में तो हम 3 factorial से ऊपर नहीं जाते थे, तो हमें पता 3 factorial 6 होता था. We did not really have to use that much, but now you'll need to use that because you'll have higher numbers और उनके factorials calculate करने होंगे. For example, 12 factorial. It's going to take more time to do this manually. 12 into 11 into 10 and so on. So you'll actually be using you'll instead be using the button on your calculator for factorial. So आप अपने calculators के ऊपर देखें सब लोग. Can I get one? So in most calculators, you'll have a button for x raised to power minus 1. उसके ऊपर लिखा होगा x factorial. So you'll have to use shift for that. उसमें नहीं है. So class first पे क्या है? Class first पे you have it. Yeah, it's the same button. उसी x raised to power minus 1 के ऊपर ही आपके factorial का बटन है. x raised to power minus 1 का बटन होगा, उसके ऊपर लिखा हुआ है factorial, right? So on your calculator, you'll just type 12 and then press that button और आपको 12 factorial की value मिल जाएगी. ठीक है? So can somebody tell me what this value is? 479,001,600. So when you do this on your calculator, this is what you should be getting. ठीक है? Because calculator cannot show more than a certain number of digits. अगर बहुत ही बड़ा number है तो फिर वो show नहीं कर सकता. Yeah, so 96 factorial is like too big. Okay. Is that okay? ठीक है, आपने calculator से evaluate करना है इसको. You need to be able to use that button on your calculator. Now let's go into these arrangements. How do we do these arrangements? Let's start with some examples. I would recommend you note down these examples as well, ताकि आपको याद हो कि कौन-कौन से different cases discuss के. In fact, I'll be sharing these notes as well. You have access to these already. What I'm going to start doing now is I'll start posting the PDFs as well. Some of you are finding hard to look at the notes online on OneNote. उसके PDFs भी मैं साथ-साथ post कर दूँगा. I used to do that before, but at some point I stopped doing it. तो दोबारा से कर लूँगा. Okay. Now let's think about this. We've got 5 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We want to think about how many different 5-digit numbers can we write using these numbers, using these 5 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Given that the digits can be used more than once. इसका मतलब है कि you can have, for example, a number like this, 5, 5, 4, 3, 4, कि repeat भी हो रहे numbers. That's possible. This is a possibility. How many different numbers can you have like this? 5-digit numbers, जिसमें आपके numbers repeat हो सकता है. Right? 3125. And how do you get that? Okay, so let's think about it. How many digits do we have? 5 digits, right? 5-digit number बनाने हैं आपको. So you've got 5 places. So we'll be using this representation a lot. We'll be making boxes to understand problems. So you've got 5 spaces here. You've got 5 boxes. And 5 boxes के अंदर में numbers fill करने हैं. Okay. Now, how many options do we have for the first box? First box के अंदर में कितने numbers डाल सकते हैं? We have 5 options, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 में से कोई भी एक डाल सकता है. So you've got 5 ways of filling the first box. You've got 5 ways of filling the first box. What about the second box? उसमें भी 5 options हैं हमारे पास. We can repeat the numbers, right? So we have 5 options for the second box. We've got 5 options for the third box, 5 for the fourth box, 5 for the fifth box. हर एक box में हम 5 में से एक number डाल सकते हैं कोई भी. So we've got 5 ways of filling that box. How many total number of ways do we have? We just did that basic counting principle. If we've got 5 ways of doing the first thing, 5 ways of doing the second thing, इन सबको इकट्ठा लिखने के क्या number of ways होंगे? We just multiply all of them, and that you're telling me turns out to be 3125. So this is the number of possible 5 number digit numbers you can have using these 5 digits 1 2 3 4 5. इनको यूज करके आप इतने numbers total लिख सकते हो different. Is that okay? Clear है सबको? Let's move on. Now, what was given here? You could use the numbers more than once. Repeat कर सकते थे. But now, what if you cannot repeat those numbers? So again, you've got those same numbers 1 2 3 4 5. But now you cannot repeat them. Repeat नहीं कर सकते. So again, 5-digit number चाहिए. How many options do we have for the first box? 5 options, right? 1 2 3 4 5 में से कोई भी डाल सकते हैं. So you've got 5 options for the first box. But then how many options do we have for the second box? जब एक number आपने first में input कर दिया, now one of these 5 numbers is gone. It's no longer available. For the second box, you've got 4 options left. Okay? And then for the third box, you got 3, then 2, and then finally you've got एक number रह जाएगा end पे, you've got only one option for the last box. So how many possible 5-digit numbers do we have in this case? You've got 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, and that gives you 120. Is that okay? Acha, you see what this means? 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. This actually is also 5 factorial. We actually 5 factorial here. Right? So we could actually, once we have thought about it, कि अच्छा 5 है, फिर 4 है, फिर 3 है, फिर 2 है, फिर 1 है, we just write it as 5 factorial directly. उसको evaluate कर सकते हैं. Is this okay? All right. Now what you want to do is, we want to see how many 3-digit numbers we can write using those same numbers. 1 2 3 4 5 को use करके 3-digit numbers कितने लिख सकते हैं? Earlier we were writing 5-digit numbers. How many 3-digit numbers can we write? Now again, the numbers cannot be repeated. The digits cannot be repeated. That's still the condition. What do you think? First of all, how many boxes do we make here? 3 boxes, right? Because 3-digit numbers बनाने 3 places हमारे पास होंगे. So we say we've got 3 boxes here, like this. Okay. How many ways can we fill the first box? 5 ways, right? 5 numbers है, उन 5 में से कोई भी डाल सकते हैं first box के अंदर. You got 5 options for the first box. Then how many are we left with for the second box? 4 and then 3. So we just multiply all of them and we get 60 possible numbers, 60 possible 3-digit numbers for this. 5 times 4 times 3. That's 60. Okay? Any issues with this? Make sure that you ask questions. आज की डेट में हम बहुत सारे key concept permutation combination से कर लेंगे. If you don't understand these basics, आगे फिर मसला होगा. Okay? We have another class in the evening. So we will be covering a lot of concepts in these 2 classes, which are very important to it. हमारा जो class का time होता है 2:20 to 3:50. Is this okay? Any problems? So this is the number of 3-digit numbers we can have. Okay. Now, we're not always going to be dealing with numbers. For example, we have letters, we could have letters, we could have things, we could have people, हम arrange कर रहे हो, we could have anything, right? Let's talk about these 5 letters, for instance. Now, we've got this word maths. In how many different ways can we arrange the letters in this word? But for example, one arrangement could be M-A-H-T-S, that could be one arrangement. You can have S-H-T-A-M. It doesn't have to be a word that has a meaning, but usko arrange kitne ways mein kar sakte. Now, how do we think about this? Sorry? Yes, same we thought about the numbers. We could say, can we repeat the letters? सारे different letters हैं, उनको repeat भी नहीं कर सकते. How many places do we have? We got 5 places, right? So again, you got 5 different letters. First के अंदर कितने letters आ सकते हैं? First box के अंदर मतलब कितने possible letters हैं? में से आप एक input कर सकते हैं 5 में से. Then once you've already input 1 into the first box, you got 4 options left, and then 3, and then 2, and then 1. And this is 5 factorial. That's 120. Is that okay? Any problems with this? So now you can do this directly. So when you have no restrictions like this, अब इसको boxes बनाए बगैर भी, I can think about this mentally. It's just 5 factorial, 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. If it's as simple like this. Okay. But now let's think about something like this. You've got, अच्छा, इससे पहले, what if I have A, B, C? How many ways can I arrange this? And how many ways can I arrange this? 3 factorial, right? 3 into 2 into 1. There's 6 ways of arranging these 3 letters. Okay? They're all different letters. We did that before. Okay? But now, what if we've got something like this? A, B, A. A, B, A. How many ways can we arrange this? 6. 3 letters are, right? Now all 3. Why 3? यहाँ पे 3 letters हैं. Like repeat हो रहे हैं. इसका मतलब क्या है? So let's say they were, let's call this A1. Let's call this 2. ठीक है? अगर ये सारे different होते, it would actually look something like this. A1, A2B, that could be one arrangement. And you could have A2, A1B, then you could have A1, BA2, and then A2, BA1, then you could have B, A1, A2, then you could have B, A2, A1. Right, first A, second A. इस तरह आपके पास ये 6 options बन सकती थी if they were all different. अगर ways different होते, but they are not different. They are the same. ये दोनों arrangements, these 2 arrangements here, they are actually the same, right? इनमें कोई difference नहीं है. वो A में फर्क तो कोई नहीं है. It's still AAB in both of them. So we have to count them only once and not 2 times. Is that okay? Similarly, these 2 are exactly the same. बस एक दफा A के पहले आ गया तो दूसरा A पहले आ गया. We can't really differentiate between the A's. They are identical. ये same arrangement. And similarly, these 2 are the same. So total number of ways कितने हुए आपके पास? There are 3 ways here, not 6. We will figure out how to calculate this in a moment for something that's more general. But does this make sense to everyone? Any problem? अच्छा, अब यहाँ पे how many total ways did we have? अगर आपकी repetitions नहीं हो रही होती, अगर letters repeat नहीं हो रहे होते, how many ways would we have? 6. Where does it come from? 3 factorial, right? 3 factorial, that's the total number of ways that we have. Then, since we have 2 repetitions, इनकी A's की जो arrangements हैं हम 2 दफा count कर रहे हैं. इस 3 factorial के अंदर हम इन दोनों को अलग अलग count कर रहे हैं, which we cannot do. A's are identical, इसको double count तो नहीं करना. So what we do for that is we divide it by 2. A's की arrangements, so basically to be more precise, 2 factorial से हम divide कर रहे हैं कि जो A's की arrangements थी वो हम निकाल दें उसके अंदर, because A's are identical. Okay? Does it make sense? Okay, let's forget about factorial for now. 3 factorial divided by 2. Does this make sense? कि आपके पास 3 factorial total ways थे without repetitions. Without repetitions, we had 3 factorial ways, but then we were double counting this कि अच्छा एक दफा A1 पहले आ जाए, A2 बाद में, एक दफा A2 पहले आ जाए, बाद में A1 आए. ये हम दो केसेस काउंट कर रहे थे. हमने इसको सिर्फ एक दफा काउंट कर रहे हैं. तो उस वजह से हम 2 से डिवाइड कर देते हैं, वो जो डबल काउंट हुआ है उसको हम नीचे वापस लें. Does that make sense? But now let's consider something that's a bit more complicated. Let's say you've got this word, initial. यहाँ पे क्या है? Somebody close that door, please. दो letters repeat word. Yes. Yeah, just leave. Give me a minute for that. So now we've got 3 repetitions. आपके पास यहाँ पे आंसर होगा. Let's say you've got this word now. It's initial. How do we have any letter that's being repeated? We got I, and that's being repeated thrice. We've got 3 I's, right? अगर हम repetitions को ignore करते हैं अभी for a moment, we assume there are no letters being repeated. How many letters do we have in total? 7. तो इनको कितने ways में arrange कर सकते हैं? 7 into 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. That's 7 factorial. If we ignore the repetitions for now, we've got 7 factorial ways of arranging this. Okay? But now we have to look at what happens because of these I's. इस 7 factorial के अंदर ये आपके सारे I's different count हो रहे हैं. For example, this I is different, this I is different, this I is different. 7 factorial को नहीं पता कि आपके यहाँ पे कुछ repetitions हो रही हैं. So these all I's are counted differently. इसका क्या मतलब है? Let's say we had this one arrangement जिसमें 3 I's आपके पास पहले आ रहे हैं, I, and then the other letters. ये 6 दफा काउंट हो रहा है इस 7 factorial के अंदर. How do we know that? Because it's counting I1, I2, I3. I1, I2, I3. एक ये arrangement count हो रही है यहाँ पे. Then you have I1, I3, I2. Or I1, I3, I2. And then I2, I1, I3. I2, I3, I1. I3, I1, I2. I3, I2, I1. आपके 3 I's पहले आ रहे हैं. The letters are all the same. लेकिन ये 7 factorial में क्या हो रहा है? 7 factorial में क्या हो रहा है? ये सारे I's को different consider कर रहे हैं. सिर्फ एक single arrangement, which is actually just one. ये एक single arrangement है. उस 7 factorial के अंदर वो 6 times count हो रही है because वो सारे I's को different consider कर रहे हैं. Is that okay? सारे I's को different count कर रहे हैं. So basically I's कितने हैं हमारे पास? I1, I2, I3. इनकी arrangements कितनी है? इसको कितने ways में arrange कर सकते हैं? 3 factorial ways के अंदर arrange कर सकते हैं. तो ये जो 6 times count हो रहा है इस additional counting को nullify करने के लिए हम यहाँ पे क्या करते हैं? हम 3 factorial से divide कर देते हैं. वो उस पे आते हैं. एक मिनट. So this is basically is happening, right? कि जो आपकी repetitions हो रही हैं, उनको आपने जो उसकी multiple दफा वो count हो रही है एक same arrangement, उसकी वजह से आप ये क्या करते हैं? उससे divide कर देते हैं उसकी arrangement से, जो repeat हो रहा है उसकी arrangement से divide कर देते हैं, right? So now we have a general rule from this, and that rule is, if you've got any repetitions like this, आपने क्या करना है? आपने total arrangement find कर लेनी है without considering any repetitions. So in this case, that's 7 factorial. And then you divide by the number of arrangements for what is being repeated. I की number of arrangements कितनी हो सकती हैं? 3 factorial. उससे आपने divide कर दिया, 3 factorial से divide कर दिया. So ये आपके total number of ways होंगी of arranging this. We'll do a couple of other examples, then it'll become clear. 7 factorial over 3 factorial क्या आता है? Can anyone tell me? 840. So ये जो ये letters हैं आपके पास initial, इनको हम 840 ways में arrange कर सकते हैं, right? 840 ways हैं इसको arrange करने. अच्छा, let's take another example. Let's say we've got this other word. So can you give an example of any word that has 2 letters being repeated only? Only one letter being repeated multiple times? Assessment. So the बहुत सारे letters. Okay, so you got school. इसमें क्या repeat हो रहा है? O and O. That's the only repetition. आपने क्या करना है? आपने total arrangement find कर ली. Total कितनी है? 6 letters हैं. That's 6 factorial divided by the number of arrangements of the repeated letter. वो कितनी है? 2 factorial. 2 factorial से आपने divide कर दिया. ठीक है? तो जो repeat हो रहा होगा उसकी arrangement से आपने divide कर देना है, and then you'll get the total number of possible arrangements. Okay? Let's take another example. Let's say you've got this word now. In how many ways can you arrange the letters in this word? So now we've got multiple letters that are being repeated. Okay. So for example, we've got S here, another S here, another S here. S is coming 3 times. And then we have T, and then another T, and then another T. T is coming 3 times as well. And then we have I, and we've got one I here and another I here. And that's all. So we've got 3 letters that are being repeated like this. S is coming 3 times. P is coming 3 times. And I is coming 2 times. So how many ways can we arrange this? First of all, we find the total number of possible arrangements without considering any repetitions. How many letters do we have? 4, 5, 6. We've got 10, right? We've got 10 letters in total. So अगर हम repetitions को ignore कर दें for a moment, the number of possible arrangements we have 10 factorial. We have is 10 factorial. So if all the letters were different, ये 10 factorial होता है. The possible arrangements. Okay? But then we have some repetitions. All you have to do is we look at the number of ways the letters S, the letter S can be arranged. There are 3 letters S. उनको कितने ways में arrange कर सकते हैं? 3 factorial. तो वो इतनी दफा extra count हो रहा होगा. We divide by 3 factorial because of that. S की वजह से हमने 3 factorial से divide कर दिया. But then we have T being repeated 3 times as well. उसकी arrangements कितने आएंगे? 3 factorial. So we divide by another 3 factorial because of that T now. तो हमने और divide कर दिया T की वजह से. And then we have I being repeated 2 times. So I की possible arrangements कितनी है? 2 factorial. So we also divide by 2 factorial because वो भी extra count हो रहा होगा. So we divide by 2 factorial here. And that's going to be the total number of ways you can arrange the letters in this. Right? So आपने total arrangement find कर ली, divided by the arrangement of each of the repeated letters. Because they're identical, उनको तो आप order change कर दो, it doesn't really matter. बस आपने divide कर देना. Does that make sense now? So this is what you have to do now. ठीक है? Multiply हो रही है, ये नीचे multiply हो रहा है. So what do we get from this? 50400. Okay, so that's what we have when we have letters that are repeated like this. Okay, अब letters की जगह कुछ और भी हो सकता है. The key thing here is ये तीनों identical हैं. All the S are identical, all the T's are identical, all the I's are identical. When you got something that's identical like this, में कोई फर्क नहीं है, difference नहीं है. You can't differentiate between 2 S's, right? उसमें हम इस तरह से डिवाइड कर देते हैं उसकी अरेंजमेंट. Any problems with this? Any problems? So this is what we do when we have repetitions of any identical objects. Identical होंगे तो this is what you do there. ठीक है? Any questions? People online? Any problems?
No, it's clear.
वो थोड़ा सा abstract हो जाएगा. So let's say if you have n objects, we have n objects. In which there are m so if there are n letters in which there is one object that is repeated p times, another object that is repeated q times, and another object that is repeated r times, the number of ways to arrange these objects is n factorial divided by p factorial, q factorial, r factorial. Does that make sense? So if there are n objects, if you have n objects, in which there is one object that is repeated p times, another object that's repeated q times, and another object that's repeated r times, the total number of ways to arrange these objects is n factorial divided by p factorial, q factorial, r factorial. Okay? So that's the general rule that we have now. Okay. Now, let's discuss another thing. People are online, any problems?
No, sir.
Can everyone raise their hands? Good. people here. Okay. No problems here? Okay. Let's look at another one. So now we've talked about simple cases of arrangements, and we talked about what happens if things are repeated. But now a lot of times we are given some sort of restrictions, right? Okay, acha, two objects have to be placed next to each other. They have to be together, right? There are two people who refuse to sit next to each other, right? Something like that. There's some sort of restrictions that you're given. उन restrictions को consider करते हुए, you have to find a number of ways you can do something, right? So let's say you're selecting a team, or there are multiple restrictions. Okay, these two people cannot be in the team together. These two people have to be in the team, both of them. So you've got restrictions like that, and then you see kitne possible ways of doing this thing, right? Okay, now let's think about this. So this is an example. You have 6 math books, 4 physics books, and 2 chemistry books that need to be placed on a shelf. Now, how many different possible arrangements are there for these books? Acha, yahan pe there's one thing that's important to note. When we say 6 math books, it doesn't mean it's all the same books, right? Math books identical nahi hai. Repetitions wali baat ki thi, that doesn't apply here, because letters, for example, if you have SS, they are identical. Unme koi difference nahi hai. But math books ka matlab hai, you could have, one, let's say one book that's of P1, another book that's P3, another book that's probably D1, another book that's D2. All of the books are different, but they're all math books and different books. Okay? So उनके arrangements जो हैं, अगर आप P1, P3 इस तरह रखो या P3, P1 इस तरह रखो, they're not the same. They are different. Okay, तो ये repetitions वाला case नहीं है. Is that okay? So this is what we have. We've got 12 total books, और वो इस तरह से categorized हैं math, physics, and chemistry books के अंदर. Now, how many ways do we have to arrange these books, given that there are no restrictions? मतलब कोई restrictions नहीं है. There are 12 books in total. What do you think? How many ways can we arrange them? 12 books, 12 total, right? 12 ways for the first place, 11 possibilities for the second place, 10 possibilities for the third place, and so on. That's 12 factorials. So you can think of it like you've got 12 places, 12 boxes, right? First में 12 options हैं, second में 11 options हैं, third में 10 हैं, and so on, all the way up to 1. And that's basically 12 factorial, and you can evaluate that. Okay? So what do we get? 4, 7, 9, 0, 0, 1, 6, 0, 0. Acha, you will, when you actually do these questions, you'll see in the marking scheme, sometimes they leave the answers in this form, but sometimes they have a separate mark for writing the answer in this form. So to be on the safer side, you'll always evaluate it. You'll always evaluate and write down the final answer in this numerical form. आपने evaluate करके final लिखना है इस तरह. ठीक है? It's pretty straightforward. But now let's say we've got some restriction. The chemistry books should be next to each other. There are 6 math books, 4 physics books, and 2 chemistry books. I'm going to write them here. We've got 6 maths, 4 physics, and 2 math books. This is what we have. Now we want the chemistry books to be next to each other. Okay. To see, yes. 2 chemistry books. Okay. Now let's think of it using those boxes that we were talking about earlier. So initially what we had was 12 boxes in total. So we have these 12 boxes. Okay, got these 12 boxes, and the number of ways in that was 12 factorial. लेकिन आप देखिए केमिस्ट्री बुक्स कितनी है हमारे पास 2 केमिस्ट्री बुक्स हैं. We want those chemistry books to be together. They cannot be separated from each other, right? So rather than having 12 separate objects now, we say we've got 10 of these objects, and then we can make those 2 chemistry books one single object. उनको इकट्ठा रखते हैं ना, we cannot separate them. So हम 12 boxes की बजाय क्या करते हैं, we've got 11 boxes instead. We've got 11 boxes, और यहाँ पे जो 2 हमारे पास ये हैं, जो इकट्ठा बॉक्स है हमारे पास, उसके अंदर हम कर देते हैं we've got the 2 chemistry books together, right? So are they going to be 10 boxes once we take those chemistry books out? 10 तो बाकी है. These are 10. We also have this one box, right? So total number of boxes is 11, right? Chemistry books का पहले दो boxes को हमने एक में कर दिया. Number of boxes is 11 now. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, we'll talk about that. So now, how many boxes do we have in total? We've got 11 boxes. So अगर हम सबको देखें, we've got 11 boxes in total. How many ways can we arrange them? 11 factorial, right? 11 boxes, so we've got 11 outer boxes. इनको हम कह रहे हैं outer boxes, right? So एक box हमने वो combine कर दिया. We've got 12 factorial ways of arranging those outer boxes. Is that okay? तो हमने वो chemistry books को जब combine कर दिया, तो वो 2 boxes जो अलग-अलग थे वो एक box बन गया. So now we have 11 boxes. Okay? But there's another thing. We've got these chemistry books inside. हो सकता है first chemistry books पहले पढ़ी हो और second बाद में पढ़ी हो, और हो सकता है कि second पहले पढ़ी हो, first बाद में पढ़ी हो. There are 2 arrangements for those chemistry books as well. They can swap places, right? एक दफा एक पहले हो, दूसरी पहले हो. So there are 2 ways of arranging those chemistry books. इसको arrange करने के there are 2 ways. So we also multiply by that. We say 11 factorial multiplied by 2 factorial for arranging those chemistry books inside. And that's going to give you a total result. What do you get from this? 79833 600. Yes, तो हम उसका पर दूसरा केस कंसिडर कर रहे हैं ना. तो एक दफा 11 फैक्टोरियल के अंदर वो C1 C2 में पड़ी हुई थी, राइट? और एक और 11 फैक्टोरियल में वो C2 C1 पड़ी हुई थी. There are 2 cases, right? So we multiply by 2, then by 2. 11 फैक्टोरियल प्लस 11 फैक्टोरियल क्या होता है? 2 into 11 फैक्टोरियल ना. दूसरी साइड लग रहा है, कर रहे हैं ना. Is that okay? So एक दफा हमने C1 C2 वाला केस कंसिडर किया, दूसरी दफा C2 C1 वाला. So there are 2 possible cases for that for arranging chemistry books. तो हमने उस वजह से यहाँ पे 2 से मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया. Any problem with this?
Sir, can you please explain this part again?
Okay.
Why we're multiplying with 2 factorial?
Okay. So the question is, why are we multiplying by 2 factorial? So we just want some, Ezra, I think, needs that explanation again. Okay. So let me repeat. So you understand, we are considering only one box for the chemistry books. They have to be together. उसके लिए सब एक box consider कर रहे हैं. So for that reason, we've got 11 boxes in total. ये तो हमें पता चल गया. ठीक है?
Yes.
11 ways to arrange those boxes. We understand this. Now, if you look inside the box, inside this box, inside the box, We have two chemistry books. So let's call them C1 and C2. How many ways can we arrange those two chemistry books? One possibility is we've got C1, C2. हमने इसका तो consider कर लिया already. There are 11 factorial ways for arranging this. But there's also another possibility, and that is it could be C2 and C1. इनको आप interchange भी कर सकते हो. There are 11 factorial ways for that as well. Right? So we're basically adding those कि अच्छा ये भी हो सकते हैं, ये भी हो सकते हैं. So total कितने होंगे? 11 factorial multiplied by 2. Right?
Okay, I
Or
get
2
it. Thank
factorial.
you.
That's the same thing. Okay. Any other problems? Any other problems? Yes.
No, it's clear.
3 factorial. How is that the same thing? Yeah, but 3 factorial and 3 are not the same thing. Factorial है ना यहाँ पे. तो वहाँ पे 6 ways होंगे ना उसमें. तो हम 11 factorial 6 times add कर रहे होंगे. 6 कहाँ से आ रहे हैं? वो 3 factorial से आ रहा है. So what do we have this 11 factorial for? Just to for your notes, 11 factorial हम क्यों कर रहे हैं? This is for arranging the outer boxes. This is for arranging the outer boxes. And this 2 factorial is for arranging the 2 chemistry books. The 2 chemistry books. Okay? Yes. You don't get 11 factorial 3 times. You should. So in that case, we should add 11 factorial 6 times, no? Because there's 6 possible arrangements there. 6 times add करेंगे. Let's do that example. So what if the physics books should be next to each other? What if the physics books should be next to each other? So how many books do we have? We had 6 math books, 4 physics books, and 2 chemistry books. Okay? Now we want the physics books to be together. यानी physics books के लिए हमारा एक single box होगा, because they can't be separated. ठीक है? 8 boxes हो जाएंगे? Okay, this is what we have originally. We've got 12 boxes. Okay, हमारे पास originally 12 boxes हैं like this. Now we want the 4 physics books to be together. तो कोई भी 4 boxes को आप इकट्ठा combine कर दें. Let's say I combine them here. I eliminate these boxes. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. यहाँ पे हमारे पास क्या आ गई? 4 physics books आ गई. ठीक है? How many total boxes do we have now? देखें 8 for the rest of them, 2 chemistry, 2 maths, and then 1 for physics. There are total 9 boxes. Outer boxes हमारे पास कितने बन गए? We've got 9 boxes. So for this, we've got 9 factorial ways of arranging. The 9 factorial ways of arranging these outer boxes. But then you have to think about arranging those physics books. Physics books कितने ways में arrange हो सकती हैं? ये 9 factorial आपके पास आया है for only one of those arrangements. For example, you could have P1, P2, P3, P4. This is for one of them. ये एक के लिए 9 factorial है. How many ways can we arrange these 4 physics books? We can arrange them 4 factorial ways. We multiply by 4 factorial. Okay, so it's similar to adding 9 factorial 4 factorial times. 4 factorial 24 है, तो 9 factorial को अगर आप 24 times add करो, you'll get that. Is that okay? I think you'll just confuse yourself. I'm just answering a question. Forget about that. हमने क्या किया? Outer boxes की arrangement find की, outer boxes की arrangement find की, और जो inner आपके पास arrangement थी उससे multiply कर दिया. That's what we're doing here. Okay. Any problems? So now this 9 factorial is for arranging the outer boxes. It's for arranging the outer boxes. And this 4 factorial is for arranging the 4 physics books. What do you get from this? So we get 8, 7, 0, 9, 1, 2, 0. So this is the total number of ways that you have. Permutation combinations can there you'll often get very large numbers as your answers, and that's fine. Is this okay? Any problems? There's only one part left to this. We have a class right now. Everybody has a class right now. Okay. Acha, we have 2 minutes. If all math books should be together, so think about this. This is for thinking while you take the next class. 6 maths, 4 physics, and 2 math books. This is what we have. What we want is all math books should be together, all physics books should be together, and all chemistry books should be together. Right? Think about this. We'll do this at 2:20. All physics books, all math books, all chemistry books, same subject की books जो हैं वो साथ होनी चाहिए. ठीक है? But 3 factorial for the first one. Outer भी तो arrange कर सकते हैं ना? 3 factorial. नहीं अभी नहीं किया. Worksheet probability की मैंने printed नहीं दी थी. You want the printout? Probability के? वही मसला हुआ है कि when I get the printout, nobody is here. वो फिर मेरे पास आगे खड़ा होता है उनको. Next हमारी अब on campus class कब है? कल है ना? Okay, so I'll give them to you tomorrow then. Both for probability and permutation combination. ठीक है? कल आपको मिल जाएंगे. Okay, there's some days missing on this, so don't worry about that. We've got today is 11th. Yeah, that's okay. Abir Azim.
Present, sir.
Alina Abbas. Alina Sultan. Al-Ghaya. Aisha Moin, Bahij, Asif, Batul, Bushra, Dania Ehsan, Fiza Liaquat was here, Fiza Nazir, Izza, Maria, Miriam, Minal, Menahil, Nawal, Sadia, Safa, Saman, Sara Kashif. Was Sara in the meeting? Does anyone know? People online? Was Sara here? Sara Haris, Shairam,
Present.
Shazveen, Sharnaz, Sophia, Zaina, Usfa, Vanya,
Present.
Zainab Akbar,
Present.
Khadija Rana,
Present.
Iman Awais. Okay. Iman is not here. Zainab, Ifra, and Ilishfa.
Present, sir. Sir, Iman
𝗪𝗲
was
is here.
online.
𝗪𝗃𝗲 is not here. Okay. 𝗪𝗃𝗲 is not here. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Allah Hafiz, everyone.
Sir? Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have a few questions from the probability worksheet.
Okay, just give me a minute. Yes.
Sir, firstly, question 13.
Okay, Sharon, just give me a minute. I'm just talking to Fiza here. 1 minute then. Yes, sir. That's major. It's pretty boring. I found it. इसलिए मैंने search कर लिया. अच्छा इसलिए के लिए आपको चाहिए होता है. It's okay. Give that test. I think they have. You have to give one of them, right? Physics या bio में से आपको chemistry या bio में से एक देना होगा. But I know enough physics के लिए दे सकते हो. But chemistry और bio में कुछ नहीं आता. हाँ, lumps का actually है problem कि आपको chemistry वहाँ पे जाके पढ़ना भी पड़ेगा. You'll in the first year you'll have to study some chemistry and probably some biology. CS के लिए शायद biology नहीं पढ़नी हो, लेकिन chemistry जरूर पढ़नी पड़ती है सबसे पहले. Yeah. Just try, just attempt that. It's okay. If it doesn't work out, आपको try तो फिर भी करना है. If it doesn't work out, go to business school. After the first year, you can switch. Switch. I applied to the business and the social sciences one, but then they're saying कि आप schools से so you can switch majors, you can switch schools. Would they like me? They got my try. हम बहुत लोग करते हैं, बहुत लोग करते हैं. बहुत लोग करते हैं, but do you know any recent seniors? Because हम अभी तक until 2 years back, I know people जो ने switch किया था. Yeah, talk to them, and most likely it's still allowed. मतलब it's not official, but if you have a good enough GPA in the first year, then you can do that. It's not a problem. आपको करना ही होता है first. आपके ना electives होते हैं कुछ elective courses. What you do is you choose all electives from SSE then. ताकि फिर आप जब वहाँ पे जाएं आप उसके वो जो कोर्सेज पढ़ रहे होंगे फर्स्ट ईयर्स यू ट्राई कि अच्छा मैक्सिमम उनके साथ साथ लेते जाएं कोर्स जो जितनी भी आपके पास पॉसिबिलिटी हो एक्स्ट्रा क्रेडिट आवर्स हो तो फिर उसमें स्विच करना आसान हो जाता है बट इट इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी इट वाज अंटिल 2 years back at least but talk to your seniors I think it still should be a possibility if it doesn't work out I would suggest अगर आपको CS में इंटरेस्ट है go for management science that's my originally choosing कि आपने CS and management sciences but because CS में नहीं तो now I chose economics and math and joint major and CS and management science. Yeah, that's fine. Management science में भी आप कुछ चीज it's very sort of you'll study programming and that some programming not very hardcore programming and कुछ programming आप पढ़ेंगे and you find that really interesting. Accounting and finance is extremely boring. Management science बहुत interesting है. Okay, no problem. Losses. Okay, G sir, I'm sorry.
Question 13, the first part.
Question 13. Okay. This one?
Yes, sir. Sorry, just as one part.
Acha. Oh, okay. Skip this for now. This is binomial. You don't have to know this right now. इसको छोड़ देंगे.
Answer question 18 में भी एक part है about expectation
18?
and variance.
या forget about that as well. वो भी हम इसी को चीजें ऐसी हैं वो बाकी टॉपिक के साथ कंबाइंड है. हमने जो नेक्स्ट टॉपिक करना है discrete random variables, वो हम वहाँ पे जब कवर कर लेंगे, you'll figure these out.
So, sir, can you please tell us which questions to skip? We just have 30 questions, so I wanted to attempt most of them.
So wherever they talk about expectation or variance, you can skip that. Wherever they talk about probability distribution, या distribution बनाने का कहते हैं आप कहीं पे, you skip that as well.
Okay, thank you,
दो
sir.
चीज आप मेजर तो ये है. उसके अलावा यहाँ पे उसने ना क्वेश्चन नंबर कौन सा 13 का था. अच्छा 13 में क्या है. अच्छा it's hard to explain कि इसको क्यों नहीं कर सकते अभी, but if you can't figure out another question, just let me know. I'll tell you कि अभी आप कर सकते हैं कि नहीं कर सकते. But it's just a matter of few days. Next week में हम ये चीजें कवर कर लेंगे इंशाल्लाह.
Thank you so much, sir. Allah Hafiz.
Okay, Allah Hafiz.